What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another HR Heretics segment. We were welcoming back our third bestie, Colleen McCreary. What's up, Colleen? It's good to see you.
Hello, everybody. So nice to be here.
All right. So you dropped the CEO VP of HR divorce rate on Medium and LinkedIn a few weeks ago. And I want to talk about it today. So can you give the primer to the audience on what this post was about and what actually what caused you to write it too?
Yeah, it is literally exactly what happened in the post. I got a phone call actually from a friend of mine who is a VC, and he was calling for a little advice because he had a CEO who had broken up with his head of HR, and he was totally perplexed because he's like, they did everything right. They had, sort of talked for a long time. She was super seasoned. He like felt like he interviewed lots of candidates and they had all the coffees and meet and greets and they interviewed each other and and they only lasted like 6 months and the whole thing blew up. And now he's like, I don't really know what went wrong. He's a little bit of a micromanager, and she like totally stomped her way out. And he's like, I don't know what to do. Like, what kind of person should I hire next? And and in his mind, he's like, who should I go find? Tell me who to refer, like all this kind of stuff. And I started laughing because I said, "Oh, that's pretty normal." Like, like this is a divorce. Like, half of marriages don't work. There's a whole reason for that. And so we talked about it. And after we finished, I got off the phone with him. I was like, I should write about this. Like, this is a good topic to write about. And I haven't been writing as much because, when you're an operator, you actually are working all the time, and I've been storing up content. And but this one, it was so fresh and so true. And frankly, even in my own operator role, to be honest, like I feel like I do a pretty good job in the sort of CEO dating process. And my current CEO, like, he read all of my blogs, he listened to all these podcasts I had done. And even then, like, it's been work to get us to the right understanding and how we work together and talk to each other and kind of live together, like, how do you really live like a marriage, And so I felt like, God, this is so real, and people just don't talk about this shit, like how hard it really is. And so I was thinking about the things that come up that don't come up in the interview, the real thing, the stuff that comes up. And then the honest truth, which is like, if you're dealing with a founder, like, there is no who gets to keep the house or the apartment or whatever. Like, if you're the HR person, you're out. Like, you're out. There is no question. Like, so I felt like it was very clear in this divorce, like, who was, it doesn't matter. There will, yeah, on the prenup, maybe get some money or whatever. You guys did a good show on how to negotiate your offer or those kinds of things. Someone should go back and listen to that. But I mean, the prenup, but the rest of it is like, you're out and someone new is going to be stepping in.
Okay, so we had LJ Brock on the show about a year and a half ago, and LJ said something because his relationship with Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO of Coinbase, from the outside, it's like, oh my God, you guys are so harmonious. And like, what did you do during the interview process that we can all learn from? And LJ was like, honestly, you just have to live through a fire together, and you're either going to survive through it or you're not.
Yeah, totally.
What do you not find in the interview process that you actually have to live through that it's like, "Oh shit, like, I got married to this person and now I feel like we're incompatible." Like, what are those things?
Yeah, I think part of it is no one wants to talk about the really nasty, hard stuff. And sometimes you don't have the hard stuff to bring up. And so I really try hard to bring up the ugly stuff in the interview process. So I have a whole bunch of hard shit, nasty stuff. I mean, some of it's in the, Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, or, so I'm lucky in that I have a whole bastion of, let me pull from the garbage can of things to talk about. And what would we do? And how would you want to handle it? And the problem is for if it's a first time CEO or first time founder, they don't actually know what they're going to do. And so they rosy it up, right? So I, I know what I would do, and they think they know what they're going to do. And then when it really happens, is when it really, like, that's the real world, the TV show, the old school TV show for those of us who are old enough to remember, like, shit starts getting real. And so you don't know, and that is a little bit of having to say. Or you ask, like what have gotten better about is asking board members or other people around, hey, give me an example of a time that you worked with this person and you saw them have to go through a hard time. I don't like to work with, I mean, it's a personal choice, but one of the things I learned after Zynga was I said, I don't want to work for a CEO who's never been through a hard time, because that was what one of the things at Zynga is they had not tripped over anything yet. So we had no muscles when things got hard, and I felt like that was a failure. So that was like a learning of like, hey, did you almost not make payroll one time? Or have you not had a whole bunch of executives quit on you? Or have you, had your stock drop in half, sort of overnight? Like picking these things. Or, like one of my, I think the other thing for you as the HR person is like, what are those things that are the triggers that get you all worked up? Like I have some big, big ass triggers, and I am not afraid to walk away from something. A big trigger for me is extortion. So, and this is one that really comes up all of the time, which is, sort of the bribery of like, well, this person's going to quit if we don't pay them whatever, or we don't promote them right now, or what. And I have a very solid line on this, like, and so many leaders do not. And I am like, why bother with calibration if you do those kinds of things? Or why bother having a promotion process? Or why having any of these things? And they're like, and people will say, like, oh, yeah, 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 I agree with that. And then top salesperson is about to walk out the door, or my, very, very entitled engineer who's written the best code ever is about to leave. And all of that sort of like, yeah, I agree with you, has now just fallen into a puddle. Or your CEO agrees with you, but then, everybody else on the management team does not, and you forgot, like, maybe I didn't socialize that with all of them.
You can't figure those things out, right?
And you can't. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't figure, but I've never heard the counter offer euphemism as extortion. That one's new for me. I enjoyed that.
I think of it as extortion, but like, yeah.
What about for you, Kelly? Like,
Yeah, look, I think this is, I said the same thing all the time. And for the record, I always talk to like my HR leadership team about it. It's not just the head of, that's not just the top job and the people role. I'm like, listen, the tie is not going to go to the runner here. So you better figure out how to unwind this and like, figure this out. I put it more on us to do that. And I say, look, it's not fair. Maybe it's not fair, but it's the reality. Like, if nothing else, we tend to have hopefully higher EQ, a little bit better problem solving skills. We can see things from all angles. This is the job, to try to figure out how to make something work or not. So I do put it on the team and I say, I don't care if it's fair or not. I'm protecting you, because if the shit hits the fan, you're probably out. The other thing is, I learned this too, because you're right, Colleen. Like interviewing, usually it's like, hey, let's court you. We're wooing you. We're dating. Let me give you, you're in Vegas. Let's get a steak and let's go to an all you can eat, whatever. It's so fun. It's so nice. And you don't talk about the hard shit. And I didn't learn this until a little bit later. Like I had lunch with a founder on Friday and I was like, tell me about your traumas. Like, tell me why you would never wanna hire an HR person, like, or any leader. Like, tell me what makes you so mental and angry or anxious, or like, what are all those things? And we never really usually ask about that. No one does. And anyone, like, I think people at all levels should ask about that, because everyone's human. Now, the other point I had is, I think that we should assume there's gonna be turbulence in a marriage. Like, you know what I mean? I just got married 2 years ago. I wasn't like, "This is gonna be duckies and horsies forever." No. You should assume that there's gonna be those things, talk about it up front, but the maturity of the person matters a lot. Because the thing I see a lot, I don't know if you both agree, is something happens in the marriage and someone just wants to throw the towel in. "This is terrible. We're never gonna get through this. I don't trust you anymore." They don't work through it. They just kinda give up because they didn't ever expect it to happen. And it's odder in work because, in a real marriage, you kinda, whatever, you try to do therapy or this or that. But in work, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't wanna deal with that person again, or have to. I don't wanna, go through this," and you have to. And so I do think the maturity of the leader, on either side or both, matters a lot, whether you can get through this or not. Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. Your workforce is your organization's greatest strength and often its largest single expense. But without the right tools, understanding where your workforce spend is going or how it impacts your bottom line can be a challenge. That's where Planful comes in. With Planful, HR and finance teams get the clarity they need to make smarter workforce decisions, gain real-time visibility into workforce fluctuations, forecast with confidence, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. No more guesswork, just data-driven insights to help you plan with accuracy. And the best part, Planful is fast and easy to implement, so you can be up and running in weeks, not months, with minimal IT support. Plus, as your company grows, Planful grows with you, providing endless runway for strategic workforce planning at any scale. Ready to take your workforce planning to the next level? Join over 1,500 organizations already using Planful. Visit planful.com/heretics to learn more.
I must admit, I used to believe that AI didn't actually exist in recruiting or HR. That is until my friend Heather Doche, who leads talent at Signalfire, told me to check out Metaview. I got into the product and was like, wow, AI actually does exist in recruiting, and this product is sick. Metaview is the world's #1 AI scribe built specifically for recruiting. Their AI records and transcribes hiring conversations, like intakes, interviews, and debriefs, then provides perfectly summarized notes of everything that was discussed. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes everything. With perfect notes from every conversation, your people can focus on creating a human connection with candidates, and they can save time on the busy work of cleaning up notes after every interview. But it's so much more than just a time saver, because perfect notes means perfect data. For every candidate and every pipeline, hiring teams can make confident, informed decisions, and talent leaders can finally take control of the interview process. Metaview covers all your compliance needs, works with all your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at organizations like Brex, Deal, HelloFresh, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts. Tell them that me and Kelli sent you. Or you could just go to their website and get started for free. You'll be up, running, and AI-enabled in minutes.
I was just going to say, I think that that is a really big component to this, which is the identifying, when the awkwardness is starting or where those points of friction are beginning and catching it early enough so that you can start to work through it before, like, I think what happens is a lot of people just sort of like shove it away, shove it away, shove it, like like you do, right? Like you just ignore it.
Pretend it's not there.
If I pretend it's not there, or we're just getting to know each other, it's not that bad. And then and then it festers and it festers and it festers, and then all of a sudden it's this big thing. And I will tell you, I am one of those people. And I am super direct, and I don't, but with the CEO, my point of view is like, I don't want to be a bother. And so, like, I want to take care of all of the shit so I'm not bothering that person. And actually, for me, what is helpful is because I have done this job a few times, I have other CEOs who can point that behavior out to me. And they have told me that I have done that to them, where I have stored shit up and I have told myself that narrative and I have worked it out. And then I didn't give that other person a chance to even address the issue, and then I like explode, or I'm like so irritated, and then I'm like, why aren't you dealing with this? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't even know that that was bothering you, or like you were worked up about that. And so I think to Kelly's point, like, this is a little bit of your own self, sort of regulation, and having your own skills and your own maturity on how to handle it. I do think that leader in you, that is I'm not the nicest person all the time, but the caretaker of the, like, I'm not going to be a bother. I'm a grown up. I'm an executive. I don't, the worst thing that you can do sometimes, I feel like, is to like have to be a bother. I'm not going to be that person. So but then I don't go in and actually give that person a chance to even work through it. And so, in my case, I know that, and I then have to say, "Hey, this I'm really struggling right now with a few things." And most CEOs, I just usually will send them, like, I'm a writer, so I will write it and then say, like, "Hey, I'm going to write this down. You don't need to respond to it right away. I'm just going to need to talk about this at some point, like, so we can, for me at least, to move forward." And I think depending on your working style or relationship, or, and like I work in a remote environment now, so it's even harder in that way. Like, you have to kind of, this is where the EQ or the job that you're in, you have to get to that point of being able to work through that. But the festering is kind of the worst case scenario.
Before we leave this, really quickly, and I'm gonna just be really open about my experience here. Like, I always say, molehills, not mountains. By the time it's a mountain, it's a whole thing. And this is why, even in my personal life, like Hillary and I will bat the ball back and forth, but it's usually always a molehill. It never gets, to a thing. And so here's what I've learned. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. I was just coaching one of my first time head of people clients the other week. And I said, listen, especially founders, it's a hard line to toe because you can't let things go too far. And you also can't bug them too much because they'll just get fucking pissed and
Then why did I hire you is what I think as a founder.
Yeah, what do I need you for?
they'll get annoyed at you. You're like an annoying gnat. And they're like, I'll start canceling one-on-ones. That's a sign your one-on-ones start dropping. They start working around you. They start doing stuff without you. And I'm like, listen, so you got to figure out a way to build a relationship with this founder where Nolan's, founder. I can go to him every week with something that might be kind of annoying in a way that's not annoying. And like he can hear it. And I do think this is where the levity, I think, helps a lot. Founders listen more when they don't think it's a big deal. If you're the HR person coming to them with like a ton of bricks and like, listen, I got to talk to you about something, or even the writing thing, Colleen. Like, if people write me memo, I'm like, oh my God, this is a big deal. Like, no, I bring it up informal, casual. Hey, take it or leave it. This is like a level 3 out of a 10. Here's the deal. What do you think? It's easier to give them more feedback that way, and that's how I work too. It's just something to try, because if you're too heavy and too much, it's like a relationship. It's like, I don't wanna date you anymore. It's way too.
Yeah, way too much. Yeah, that's good.
It's great advice because you're totally right. I think there is some sort of bias with HR leaders of like, they're wearing a lot of heavy shit maybe every week is what it is. And then they come to the founder and they're like, "Here's the heavy shit for you." And it's like, "No, no, actually your job is to be a filter and to filter it through to where it's like, this is what's up, right? Like, hey, we're on this." Like, and you have to be able to understand the temperature control on each of these things, right? Of like what's burning and on fire versus just like, "Oh, this thing's on the back burner. It's totally fine. It's like at a 1 out of 10."
Yeah, yeah, Jerry's spitting out again, don't worry about it.
It's hard to decipher that. Just going back to the divorce rate thing, Colleen. I think the marriage is the perfect analog. And, I talk to people about this all the time. We forget this. The most important things in life, who you marry, where you live, where you work. Those are the three things. There's a couple of other things for sure, but like that's the three things, right? If health and all the other things are in order. And I think about it all the time for call it, senior director and above. When you are at that level, you get married on LinkedIn. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows, right? All of your friends know, all your parents know, your siblings know, everybody knows you got all the VC talent partners know, right? Everybody sees that shit. And there is this like, oh my God, if you look in, 4 or 5 months in, you're like, this is a nightmare. I think a lot of people are just like, let me push through. And I think, I saw somebody do this recently to where they were like, it just wasn't a fit and they left after 3 months. And I actually think like I really respect that. This is somebody who had like a number of like long stints up until that point. I am coming to believe that true happiness lies in being honest. And obviously you're going to try and work things out, right? Like it's like the foundation here. but I think misery happens when you just like, "Shit, I gotta be here for 2 to 3 years." Like, I gotta tuck in and make this thing happen. A lot of people do that and just eat shit, and then then that's where the animosity comes from. You hate the other person, your whole life becomes this just like snowball and unhappy.
Let me challenge you both. This is my last point. That all sounds wonderful. And if I'm listening to this, I'm like a director, senior director level, trying to do my thing or whatnot. I feel like agency and experience plays a lot into this because I was not always like this. So let me just try to call bullshit a little bit and say that's great because you can walk down the street and say fuck off to anyone, Colleen. You have so much agency. What do I do when I'm like the first time head of people and Nolan, I want to make it work. Like we all know if you have 3 or 4 stints that are like, oh, didn't work out, it's kind of like, ugh, like what do I do when I don't have that agency like you do?
Well, first, you have to earn the right. Like, I'm totally agreeing with you. Like, you have to earn the right. And the thing is, especially earlier in your career, like, you do have to, like, earlier in your career, you have to work harder. You have to get people coffee. You have to eat shit. Like, that's just part of the deal. I had to do that. There's no skipping those levels.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I do think there is an element of old lady speaking here of to Nolan's point, which I do appreciate that he is saying these things of like there is an element that I think there was a wave of people for a while who were taking these roles who were not prepared for the role that they were stepping into, that they had not, they sort of got elevated very quickly. And it wasn't because of their age or anything else, but they just didn't have the reps under their belt of the pattern matching and the experience that they needed. And then they were getting into these jobs and they were quote head of people maybe at like a 20-person company, a 30-person company, and then things weren't working out, and then they were getting pissed off about it not working out, and then they were kind of sitting in the seat and getting all grumpy, and some of those people I think caused some of these founders to be all pissed off about HR, and I was like, well, that's not HR. I mean, like, so I think that there's this mix of all of those kinds of things. I do think, yes, there is a I have the flexibility in my career and my life at this point, and the privilege. I know that word isn't Nolan's favorite, but the privilege for many reasons that I have earned as a kid who grew up on food stamps and all of those things at this point in my life to walk away from anything. I have that now. I did not always have that. And I do that. I use that agency at this point. I try to be more selective, though, in the front end of like where I choose to put my LinkedIn is making a statement about the kind of place that I want to work and attract the people who want to come follow me to that place. So, it's a double-edged sword on that. And I will also probably work hard to try and make it work. But if I am not aligned, I will likely be someone who will opt out and just be like, nope, it's not for me. And I'm not going to do those kinds of things. I have that privilege. Not everybody, to your note, Kelly, has that opportunity. I think we see a lot of those people now. Like, I do think that's the world, not just in this role, but in lots of worlds where they don't have that sort of, and that's a choice though. I mean, to me, if you are staying in a job that you don't are not aligned, and if you are in we've had this conversation many times, but like if you are in the head of people seat and you are out of alignment with your CEO and you are choosing to stay in that job while out of alignment, that is a conscious choice that you are making about your own leadership and influence. And I would question how long you can choose to stay in that seat for your own mental and, sort of ability to function and your happiness, and then and your own value system, or for whatever reason. And then also how long your longevity really is going to be. Because if you're not really that influential and you're not that connected, my bet is that that founder is eventually, or that CEO is eventually going to realize that there might be somebody else out there who is going to be in alignment with me. And I might want to make that choice. That divorce is going to happen at some point, and maybe you should be preparing for that. Like, do take some action on your side to start preparing yourself for that, which just goes back to this post about like maybe you should be more action oriented about that and not so lackadaisical to allow that to happen. So
Yeah. And I agree. I think, my message on this is that everyone can have this conversation. This is not just for people with agency, and this is where it's not a one size fits all. So I don't want people to take this conversation and run around being like, "You're terrible. I want a divorce," and all this. It depends on the situation. It depends on the person. And listen, a lot of divorces are amicable. I had one in 2018. We're best friends. Like, just know that there is a way to get divorced that's also a win-win. You could leave with half the house. You can leave with alimony. You can leave with, like, it's really important when you figure out it's not the right thing to do it the right way. Because again, the tie's not gonna go to run around that one either.
I do think that is the most important message for this whole thing, which is we have I heard you say this over and over and over, and I cannot emphasize it enough that this world is so small. How you leave this divorce is going to matter for you. I mean, it will matter. So leaving nicely, leaving gracefully, do not leave a dumpster fire, and it will not.
Taking the high road. This is honestly like I have not done this well. These are my biggest regrets in life. Like in almost all of my relationship, I just like I have not done it well and I regret it so much. Like just take the high road. Even you get emotional in the moment and it's just you try and think of the person 5 years from now looking back on the moment is now my new framework for it. Because when you're in the moment, you're fucking pissed. And it's just like you have to transcend that and be the bigger person.
The VC who called me, I have known him, it's 2025, since maybe 2011. I mean, so this is going back a long time. I've known this guy a long time, since he was not a VC, and so we keep saying this over and over. And if you are early in your career, the relationships matter. Who you meet, it happens to me all the time. Someone who was a college intern of mine in 1990, whatever, is a founder wherever, is the CTO of big companies. Like these relationships that I built 30 years ago, you never would have imagined that someone is still saying like, oh, I knew you when you were a recruiter on my blah 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 campus, or I knew you when they were blah, and it still comes back. Like, so how you treat people and how you leave things will matter. So that's the most important part of this divorce.
Yep. Colleen, thanks so much for joining us. We miss you.
Of course. Yeah.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.